Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're gonna be watching some Her Story because
Every day, the same guy popped a pimple 2 inches from my face and screamed, "Pimple time!" I'd cover my face as his zit juice exploded all over me. I tried going to the teacher about it, but they'd always laugh. "Braden's just having fun. You're the one who keeps reacting. Ignore him, and he'll stop." But I was reaching my breaking point. Every week, the pimples got juicier, the crowd got louder, and he started timing his pop for the exact second that I'd sit down with my tray. When I tried avoiding it by switching tables, he'd follow. Then one Friday, he went too far. He walked up with a white head the size of a marble, leaned over my tray, and screamed, "Pimple time!" Before I could react, he popped it so hard it splattered across my whole face. My entire face turned hot and itchy from embarrassment. When I opened my eyes, every phone in the room was pointed at me.
oh
And
yeah, I'm
everyone
killing
was
him.
laughing their ah off. Kids I'd never met were making fun of me by pretending to pop fake zits and screaming. I set down my fork and decided I was going to end him. The bell went off for our
Yeah,
class, and I knew it was now or never. I sneaked off to the girls' bathrooms
yeah,
and waited until I heard the coach blow his whistle for drill runs. As soon as he did, I
yeah,
sneaked by the gym and stole his cap that he always left hanging on the hook on the right side of the
yeah.
wall with a smirk on my face. I immediately grabbed it and ran to the bathroom to grab the nastiest thing under our bathroom sink
Oh
and worked
no,
it deep into the inner band, right where it
oh
pressed against
no,
his forehead all day. It looked so disgusting, and I knew it would give him the biggest pimple of his life, which was absolutely perfect for
oh
my
no,
plan. As soon as I was done, I left it by the hook and
oh
rubbed my hands
no,
together like an evil fly. The next day
oh
in the
no,
cafeteria, I sat at a table next to him and waited. As
oh
soon as he saw me
no,
put my tray down, he swaggered over. "You know what
oh
time it is?" And this
no,
time, I was smiling with him. Yes, he looked confused for a
oh
second, but
no.
shrugged and took his cap off anyway. "Pimple time!" Underneath it was a pimple that looked like a volcano. His 2 index fingers went to press it like muscle memory, and I braced for impact. Everyone watched as a spray of green hit the tables and splattered the ceiling. The same kids who chanted his name screamed and stampeded for the doors, tripping over benches to get away from him. And for the first time all year, I wasn't gagging. I was the only one in that whole cafeteria smiling. The next day, I saw Braden by his locker, putting on star-shaped pimple patches. "Pimple time," he whispered sadly to himself. Every day, the same guy popped a pimple
Uh-huh.
2 inches. The waiter
You're
secretly
supposed to
handed
kill
me a
him, but
menu with a note
okay.
taped to the inside. "If the man you're with is your husband, I need to talk to you. This is urgent." My heart dropped with fear. What was going on? I looked up at the waiter who was smiling and acting completely normal. What did he know about my husband? I turned to my husband and tried my best not to sound nervous. I'm going to go look at the desserts up front." He looked a little suspicious, but nodded and said, "Okay." I got up and followed the waiter over to the dessert display, and I had no idea what to expect. The waiter started pointing at the cheesecakes, pretending he was explaining the menu while he warned me, "You need to listen to me. I've seen your husband here before." I felt my stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" "He's been here multiple times, with multiple different women." I couldn't believe it. Was he cheating? "How many women?" "At least 4 that I've seen." He paused. "But that's not why I wrote the note. It's worse. Every woman I've seen him bring here has gone missing. I see their faces on the news weeks later." My whole body went cold. What the hell was going on? He said, "I called the police when I saw him walk in tonight
He's
because I suspected him, and the police said he's the primary
draping
suspect for the
them.
woman's disappearances. They've been looking for him." I stared at him. "Is this real?" He didn't say anything, just pointed at the window. I turned to see and saw cop cars were pulling up in the parking lot. My knees buckled and I had to grab the counter to steady myself. The waiter smiled at me. "Go back to the table. Act like everything is normal." My mind was spinning because it felt like some sick joke. I walked back shaking and sat back down. My husband's smile faded. "You look pale." He pushed my glass toward me. "You haven't touched your drink yet." I picked up the glass, but right before I could bring it to my lips, the front door swung open. Cops rushed in and circled my husband. I gasped.
I got
"Shocked.
guns.
Hands on the table now."
Shoot
My
him.
husband's eyes
Shoot
widened
him.
and he tried to run.
Shoot him.
The officer tackled him, searched his pockets,
Put
and
your knee
pulled
on
out a
his
small
neck.
vial. The cop pulled me aside. "This is the same substance he used on the other women. He'd take them on dates, drug their drinks, and they were never seen again. He already put it in your glass tonight. You were his next target." I couldn't breathe. The cop said, "If that waiter hadn't called us, you wouldn't have made it home tonight." The waiter secretly handed me a menu with a note taped to the
Bruh,
inside. "If the man on my first shift as a waitress, a woman
bruh.
sat down at my table, snapped her fingers, clapped twice, and
Yeah,
said,
you
'Water
ugly.
now, and make it quick.' I thought it was rude, but before I could even turn
Drug
from the
it.
kitchen, another waitress was already there filling her glass. 'I'm so sorry she's new here.' The woman sipped and said, 'Took you long enough,' while I stood, gripping my notepad in confusion. I decided to just leave it, but when I brought her the medium rare steak just like she asked, she took one bite and spit it back on the plate. 'Tell the chef to do it again.' She pointed her manicured nail towards the kitchen. I grabbed the plate hard with my jaw clenched because what was
Poisonous.
her attitude problem? But when the head chef saw it, he
Poisonous.
gripped his chef's hat like he'd just heard World War III was starting and rushed through the doors to personally apologize. It felt dystopian watching everyone bow to this woman. And when I asked the manager, 'Why
Poison.
is everyone kneeling to her like she's Joan of Arc?' he
It's
replied, 'Just do as she says,' with a pale and terrified face. I grabbed her plate and brought it
poison.
out, but as I went to turn away, she swung
It's
her arm and knocked the plate into my uniform. That's for setting it down too aggressively. I stood there with peppercorn sauce dripping into my pants and loudly told this bitch, 'Get out.'
poison.
Immediately, the waitress at a nearby table froze like I'd committed murder order, and before the woman even opened her mouth, my manager rushed over. I'm so sorry, ma'am. We promise we'll make this right. He began calling the chef, but I interrupted. Are you crazy? She threw food at me. She's leaving. That's when the woman stood up laughing. Do you know who I am? I am the daughter of this restaurant's owner. I stared at her blankly. That's it? That's all you are, and you're acting like this? Her face twisted, and she pulled out her phone, while I turned around asking my coworkers if they've had surgeries to get their backbones removed. Suddenly, the doors opened, and the owner walked in and asked what happened. She was rude to me. He stared at the sauce on my pants. So you threw food at her? I told you to stop doing this. She groaned. Yeah, whatever. Just fire her. But the dad cut her off. I'm banning you from the restaurant. If you don't leave within 10 seconds, I'm calling the cops for trespassing. Her face drained of color, and she flailed her arms in the air. I mean it. I'll leave before I disown you too. She turned around and
I am a
stormed
minute.
out. Then
Give
he
me
turned
on
to the
after
manager.
tennis.
Can you please tell me why out of my entire staff, the new girl is the only one with a backbone? I stood there smiling with potatoes still on my apron. On my first shift as a waitress, on my first day as a gym teacher, the principal clapped me on the back. You're a woman who's teaching sports, so no one's expecting much. Just try not to get fired. Before I could respond, he walked out and the door locked behind him. I nervously picked up the whistle and blew it, but all the kids ignored it and stayed sitting on the ground, yapping. But I clenched my fists because I was determined to prove him wrong. I took my phone out and plugged it into the school speaker to play the Star-Spangled Banner on full volume. Every child immediately turned to me, wide-eyed and confused. I threw orange jerseys out to half of the room. This is the World Cup. You are the Netherlands. I threw blue ones to the rest. You are Japan. I balled my hands into fists and raised them in the air. Ole, ole, ole. For a second, everyone in the room stood there frozen, and I had no idea whether I was actually going to prove the principal wrong. Then one kid grabbed the ball and the whole room exploded. Orange and blue screaming for their countries and slamming into each other. I jammed the whistle in between my teeth and blew as hard as I could. Red card, red card. We were all laughing because it was the closest thing we'd felt to being in the World Cup, and I couldn't wait to see the principal's face. But suddenly, a fight broke out. Someone on the Japanese side threw a ball out the window. That should have been my goal. Suddenly, the door burst open and the coach walked in to find a stadium. Everyone had their hands over their mouths as the principal looked around, completely bamboozled. He clapped his hands over his head and roared, "Line up, everyone, now." Nobody moved. I smiled. "Don't worry about it, sir. The kids only listen to adults they respect." I spoke at a normal volume. "Everyone stand in line, please." The principal's face was drained of color. He said no one expects much from a woman teaching sports. Those kids expected me to bring the World Cup back every week. On my first day as a gym teacher, the principal clapped me on the back. You're a woman who's teaching sports, so no one's expecting much. Just try not to get fired. Before I could respond, my boyfriend got down on one knee and opened the ring box to reveal an Aura Ring fitness tracker. I stared at it, waiting for the punchline, but Derv took my hand. "Babe, you said you wanted to be a wife, and I can't propose to a girl who's overweight, so this way you can..."
Okay, bro. Sure, bro. You're so overweight, bro.
lose the weight and be my wife. The tables around us went quiet, and I wanted to slap him, but instead, I smiled and slid the ring onto my finger. Rose gold, how sweet, because I was going to give him exactly what he wanted in the worst way possible. The next morning at 5 a.m., I pulled on my Lululemon running shorts while he laughed from the bed. "Good luck, babe. Try not to pull a muscle. I know it's been a while." He thought he was hilarious, but I used every joke as a reminder for why I needed to be better. On month 3, we were in front of the mirror at the gym when I saw my body was shifting more into an hourglass, and he started...
Did her hips get bigger?
Flexing next to me like my progress belonged to him. "I got 190 pounds of pure muscle, babe, and you have the body to match it. I told you the ring I got you would work." I let him believe it, because the more credit he took, the better the ending got. By month 6, he couldn't stop kissing me, and for a second, I wondered if he'd changed, but then he scrolled to an old photo of me and said, "Promise me you'll never go back to that." I smiled sweetly. "I'm going to make sure I never feel how I felt in that moment ever again." He stroked my knuckles. "Then I think we're finally ready for the next step." And as he booked the same restaurant where he first proposed with the Aura ring, I twisted it on my finger one last time. I'd been ready for months. When we got to the restaurant, he led me to the same table, set up with the same candles, and as soon as I sat, Derv was already lowering himself onto one knee. He opened a box with a real diamond inside and held it up like a trophy. "You earned it this time, babe." "Well, your Aura ring earned it." I pushed my chair back and stood up slowly and twisted the Aura ring off my finger while he was still smiling. "You were right, babe. I was carrying extra weight, about 190 of it." His face fell as he realized he was 190 pounds, and I was talking about him. I dropped the Aura ring into his open box and snapped it shut over the diamond. He grabbed my wrist as I picked up my bag. "This is how you repay me? After everything I invested in you?" I pulled my arm free and walked past every table that was quiet for me 6 months ago. Behind me, Derv was still on one knee, holding a box with 2 rings nobody wanted. Best weight I ever lost.
Yeah, bro. Alright. Peace, my intellectually challenged viewers. Another video being recorded. I just couldn't sit here and watch her story for 25 minutes. So I sat here for 9 and watched like 7 her story videos. That's fine. Peace.